Welcome to C-Beam Rally Team, sponsored by Clark's Corvair Parts. I am Tyler. We have to get this thing on the road in a matter of several weeks, and I am freaking the hell out. I don't think this thing's going to be done. In this episode, we're going to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. We got some electrical system going in, some lights, we got some carburetors, some brakes, a lot of cool stuff. Stay tuned. Alright, front brakes. I don't have time for a full restoration on these, so we're just going to take it apart, put the new parts on, put it all back together. If you've never done front drum brakes before, they're usually a lot easier than rear drum brakes, so there's just this one spindle. There's no plate in here to block you from anything. A lot worse, fellas. There's our backing plate. I'm gonna hit some fluid film on here. That'll help keep this from rusting in the future against that backing plate. Obviously you want to restore this stuff, but I don't have time for that right now. There we go. Now it seems like there's probably only one manufacturer of this wheel cylinder here. I have a metallic brake option on this car, which is apparently pretty rare. So I have a wheel cylinder that the bleeder and the hose outlet come out at opposite angles. Alright, so now we have our brake shoes here. We got one, two. They're the same brake shoes for the whole car. Last item on the agenda. Oh no, I forgot my little washer. We have 6 tabs here that these shoes ride on. Put a little lube on those, not too much. If you've never worked with drum brakes before, this is equivalent to lubricating the slides on your calipers. Unfortunately, the kits you get and the parts you can get today don't include the little push rods for the wheel cylinders, so I'm just going to go and give these a quick clean up. Then I move on to polish. This is what I've been using. There are multiple products that'll do the same job for you. What I'm basically looking for here is to smooth this out so it installs into that wheel cylinder boot cleanly and it doesn't try to tear anything up. I also don't want any brake dust going into the boot and into the cylinder because that can contaminate that seal. Depending on your commitment level, you might want to chuck these in a drill and use a Scotch-Brite pad or something. I'm gonna call them good for now. I'm gonna be rebuilding this thing again when I do the front suspension, and it shouldn't be too long. Very nice. Alright, now it's time to start assembling these good boys, and I bought a bunch of parts when I was working at Napa, so I got exact fit parts, and I gotta tell you, they are extremely disappointing. If you're looking to have a good experience, you should probably buy from a place like Clark's Corvair Parts that deals with Corvairs on a daily basis rather than random auto parts stores. The lookups on these old cars just aren't as good as they used to be. So first thing, I'm going to take this thing out. This is the adjuster, and it is seized. The passenger side is left-hand thread. This is right-hand thread. The Napa gear is way bigger. You can see that's clamped into the vise. This won't even go in. So if you want to maintain your factory braking system, you can roll this off of here, discard this piece, then we can put this onto here. Okay, so on the passenger side, use this one and run that on, but this is a left-hand thread, and this one on the driver's side is a right-hand thread. Alright, that goes all the way in. New washer, we got the new end. If it moves freely, I'm happy. So if we want to rebuild this, we can look at this self-adjuster that comes in the kit. It's the wrong size. This is just all part of the self-adjuster. Little dab will do ya. Shove it into that, and we can put this whole thing back on. There we go. Kind of hangs there by itself a little bit. Another issue with the Napa brake kit is that the retainers are too long, and the retainers actually will scrape on the drums if you use the new ones. So I have to use the old ones to make it work. I made it. I did it.
I did it.
The trick is to do it right and to not do it wrong. Alright, that holds that little guy in place, and we'll be able to get our blue one on. Keep it centered. Why is it coming down? So we've already established that I'm an idiot, right? It's time to put the wheel bearings in, and on the other side I put the seal in before I put the bearing in. So I ruined the seal on the way out. They were the only two seals in the metro area, it looks like. So I'm going to have to put the pack the bearings up right now, and we'll have to wait to get the new seal in a couple days from now. You can go about and try to clean these out with mineral spirits or whatever, but I like to just repack it, and it tends to push everything out. So I'm putting the thing on like a ring and just pushing the grease into the big side of the bearing, and you can see it starts to come through. So I'm going to push that through until it comes out clean. Stick it in. Put a little grease around the top as well, just to make sure that there's enough in there. If I had a wheel seal going in, I would put it right here, and we'd use this big socket. This is what, 1.5" socket to drive that seal in. It's going to go along with our outside bearing, do the same thing, and I'll slide this onto the spindle and just store it there for a while. One last thing I can do here is put the front brake hose on. We got a copper washer with the wheel cylinder kit. So there are two lengths of hose for this car. The long one is for metallic brakes, which I have, and the short one, the 13-inch, is for normal brakes. We do also have our grommet up here. That keeps our brake line from rubbing on stuff and getting cut in half. And I think we are good for now. We're going to leave this thing where it is till we get that wheel seal. What you doing?
Trying to get this lock cylinder out.
So you're supposed to have it on lock and then push the pin in and then turn it counterclockwise past lock. But we're having an issue, but it won't do it. Well, Clark's is out of fuel pumps. I bought one off Rock Auto. This is a Delphi unit. I don't know how reliable it's going to be. I moved the fittings over from the old pump. You can see on the base there. So I got to find the set screw, and we will get this thing all set in. Feels like a lot of little piddly work today, but we're getting little details figured out. I got the fuel line in here. This is the main fuel feed line. Gonna have to tweak it a little bit over here, but it's fitting pretty well. Got it attached up to the fuel pump. Here's our little set screw, and we got our vacuum balance tube over here. Gotta screw that down, but that was a gift from a generous supporter of the channel. Clark's order is coming soon with almost all the rest of the parts. Last night I did a lot of work off camera, like installed the gas pedal and that first linkage, the little turning linkage underneath. Now I'm running up against these multiple little roadblocks that I can't go forward until I have like one little part. Like I can't put the front wheels on until I have that wheel seal. I can't put the rear axle in until I have the the yoke. I can't turn the engine over easily unless I get the axles or pull the starter off again. Trying to put together the clutch and accelerator linkages, and I came upon another very annoying issue. This is the accelerator linkage that goes up to the throttle. This one, I forget what it's for, but we need both of them, and this one will only screw on the threads that far. The threads are that long, and that's how much engagement we get because the threads are messed up. So I wanted to go just throw a die over this and clean them up so I can actually thread it on. Well, it is a UNS, a super fine thread. It is 1/4 by 36. Fine thread is 1/4 by 28, and I don't have anything for that. Got one coming from Scamazon. It's gonna come in 2 days, and I just can't do anything else with these until then unless I just mount it in place. Looking at the engine, we can put the shroud rubber down. It looks like the shroud rubber goes on the bottom maybe. Since I am waiting on parts for pretty much every other part of the car that I want to work on, I figured I'd take this beautiful Thursday evening to work on the seat mounting solution. Now, I have figured out that this is a very easily adjustable seat, and it's a very easily adjustable seat slider. So I moved the brackets on the seats inward a little bit, straightened them up, and then I mounted the actually seat sliders on those brackets and made everything nice and square. I noticed that my rear holes are pretty close to even and pretty close to centered, but I noticed that the front end is probably a little bit too far forward. Looking pretty good. We have this and these on the same level. Holes drilled, 11.5. Just gotta go and mark and re-drill this hole and we'll be ready to paint it. Alrighty, here we go. We got that set up. Wait a second, I deleted the wrong one! No!
Get yourself together, man.
Just like when I first made this, I'm going to use a paint pen on a tip of a sharpened screw. Knock it down there. Then I can go and drill right there, and I'll have the perfect hole. It's 13 inches. How? Secure enough to sit on, right? This could be problematic. That's close to where I want to be. Too reclined. The steering wheel is a little bit in my eyes and a little bit far away from the pedals. I'd like to be maybe an inch further. You might want to be higher up in the back. I don't know if I like this seat at all. It's currently 2:20 a.m. so I should not be trusted with power tools at this time of night. I'm gonna call it a day. We got something built and we'll come in tomorrow and do something else. Not graceful. This is too tall. We got the original seats out of the barn. This one is pretty rough, but luckily I know a company that sells reproduction Corvair parts that I think they can probably set me up with something eventually. In the meantime, I'm going to work on the carburetors because we have parts coming in tomorrow and I'm going to be busy, so let's get these all done today. I gotta do a lot of degreasing on these things. They're really nasty. can let it drip dry here, reapply. Maybe I'll do one with 3M and one with gunk. I don't have a full can of this, but we can get a little bit, see if it works. Because after 3 coats of degreaser, we actually got some pretty good results. This is the one that got 3M for the second 2. This is one that got 3M for only the last one. This is that, I think, clutch linkage that is messed up in the threads, so it'll go about to there before it stops. I did end up getting a quarter by 36 tap. Negligible no play. Yeah, oh yeah, that's perfect. We got a locksmith to install the new ignition cylinder so we can have a key, put the key in, take the key out, do all the key things. Also got that done with the used trunk lock. So we have everything's matching the same key.
So instead of the previous owner getting the lock cylinder rekeyed, they just snipped off the wires, put these on, and put on an external switch.
Very professional.
Yes. I took the connector off of this and spliced it into your harness so we can snap it right on here now.
Okay, all factory then?
Yep. And then on yours, a few of these that the wires were showing. So I spliced them off the parts car and put those on your harness too. There were 3 of them.
Also got all new light bulbs for the instrument cluster, so we should be all 100% lit up in there.
So evidently this car did not come with a radio, so there was not a pin in it for the fuse box. So I'm just popping this out of the parts car and I'm going to snap this on here so we can, I'm not sure how to clean them easily.
Wire brush. Or deox it. Some subscribers have recommended this and, well, it seems to work pretty well.
It's a spray?
Yep.
Okay. The other thing I noticed is that I need to get the defroster hose in before I put the instrument cluster in.
Okay, we have
I'm going to do that too.
We got a Clark's Ultimate defroster and heater hose kit, so have everything ready for that. I just I can't finish it in time for POR, so we're gonna have to do that later. But we'll put that in. I think it's time to disassemble carb number 1 here. We're gonna put all the parts in here and all the big pieces over here. Nasty floats. Gross stuff everywhere. Lots of gunk inside there. Nasty. I swear to you, I ran this ultrasonic cleaner once. They're beautiful. Look at that. Holy crap.
Wow.
Inside, we'll have to get that figured out. Looks pretty awesome. I have to say the rebuild went well. I think it looks really good. I'm excited about it. Come on. Came out nice and clean. You have to set your float height from the bottom of the gasket down to the bottom of the float. What?
What the hell is even that?
But otherwise, throttle shaft is extremely loose. I'm gonna see if it'll run and drive that way and work on a different carb situation later. I've got both seats cleaned up. I put the passenger side seat in, and I think I've got the process understood a little bit better. So the front seat sliders have slots in them, and the rear ones have holes. So I think they want you to line up the sliders to each other, and then slot them in the front and drop them down on the rear. I think that's why they have the stud on the back instead of another bolt. Much better. awesome. Yeah, that's the ticket right there. So there are two on the outside. There's one on the inside. That's how they did it. Don't ask me why, I don't know. We tried the racing seats. The racing seats don't work. Let's try the stock seats here. Oh, much better. Maybe a little bit upright, but for me, this is actually kind of perfect. The only thing I'm missing is bolsters. They aren't meant to hold you in place. But the size, the position, the height, I see no immediate problems. I think we can run these for POR. 2 carbs done. This one I fought with the linkage quite a bit. I realized that I had the little plastic piece backward. So figured that out after, I don't know how long, 10 minutes fighting with it. So I think these are ready to hop on. Again, both of the shafts are really loose, so gonna need to be redone at some point. Got all my extra pieces in a plastic bag I'll keep in the car just in case. Let's go pop those onto the engine here. Had this tape on here for, I don't know how long that's been, a year? So I'm gonna go here. Where are we? There's some debate online whether to reuse phenolic spacers or to put gaskets on them. I'm gonna just use the phenolic spacers and we'll see if it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Actually backward from the passenger side one. So this is our side that goes on the throttle itself. So we're gonna put that in there. This side doesn't go on that. I want to show you guys real quick one of the reasons I bought the Corvair and invested in this project as a regular car for me is that I can get an amazing variety of replacement parts. This is a brand new lens from Clark's on a brand new backing. This thing I reused because I had a couple of good used ones. But in there we got a bulb in. This thing is ready to go plug in. New socket, everything. It's awesome. So I just wanted to say, you know what? I know people complain about the price of stuff, but you can buy it. Like it's insane to me that you can buy new taillight housings for these things. Amazing. This is what happens when I'm stressed out and got too much on my mind. This is the taillight and turn signal housing, and I put a backup lens on it. So let's swap that lens over real quick. I think these are still new lenses. Could be wrong. Kind of dirty at this point. Phillips 66.
The outside screws on the bottom.
You doing the bottom one or the top one?
Doing the bottom one.
There, I think that's about right. I'm gonna have to throw some kind of sealant on the top of that, but I think she's good to go otherwise. Sure.
That's nice.
This one then is the backup light, and they come on a little green guy. Pops in there like a bulb socket, so cool. A channel member told me that some people bring axle yoke removers with them on road trips so that if they need to service a wheel bearing they can. I don't have a spare axle with me, but I'm gonna try to use this and probably take it with me just in case, and hopefully that'll help out. That'll allow me to start the rear brakes. That goes in the back, and then we shove those through. Along with the threads, we want to grease the tip of this thing. Oh, that's coming off nice. I like that. Nice. There we have it. Unless you really, really want to exercise your new Clark's yoke puller, just pull your whole axle back. It'll pull out of the diff at the seal, and you'll be able to work around it. We got our wheel cylinder and hose on from earlier, so we're not going to worry about that today. Now it's time to get the shoes ready. I did find my box of parts. It was on top of a parts car outside getting rained on. Let's call this lucky shoe the rear shoe. We will move this over. Work that back around. We have that brake lubricant in there. To be clear, I did make my life difficult because I took all the parts off, I put them in a box, I lost the parts, and then I purchased whatever kits I could find. So at this point, I started putting together things from different kits and trying to make things work, and I'm using rusty parts car parts, and now I have the right parts. So we're gonna use the used parts that came off this car. This is the retainer spring for our self-adjuster. And that is going to go down here. So we're going to put like that. It goes between your e-brake lever there and the other shoe. Alright, because we have the spring in the bottom, everything kind of holds together. It's really nice. Alright, I think that is all we're going to do on the floor here. Let's put this thing up on the drum. How's this? We'll go like this first. There, good. Wait a second. Oh my god, I got that. Oh, fuck. Put that on there and then up here. How about that? That works. Alright. To retain that, we're going to have this spring. This one goes up on this hook, not on the main pivot. We have the e-brake cable left. Let me pull that around. It is one big cable that goes all the way from the driver's side all the way to the passenger side. So I learned this trick. You can pull the spring back and then put a vice grip on it, and then use the vice grip both to hold the spring and to hook that end on it. So we're going to try that. I'm all the way to this far. I'm not going to undo all this just to put this in. So I'm just going to struggle, get this thing in, and then at the end, this little piece shoves into the hole, clips in, and it's all done. I was able to get a screwdriver in there and just whack it hard, and it went straight in. So it's not totally pulled up against the stop and on the lever. And I think that's going to pull out when I pull the e-brake lever the first time. This flange was pretty hard to take off last time, so I'm gonna smear some fluid film on the back of it. Should help it from sticking. There we go. The same solid axle BS you go through with a 9-inch. I missed one piece in here, and I don't think it's that important. Go in this little tab on the bottom. That little spring right there. This little guy is for the e-brake crossover cable, and this connects it to the front e-brake cable. Let's go put that in. And I also have a backup switch that goes under the transmission. That comes with a whole cable, and I'll have to figure out which one to put in which hole on the connector. It's like a second drain plug. Because the Corvair engineers realized they didn't have enough potential oil leaks. Why not just one more? Just one more, bro, I swear.
Just one more lane, bro. That'll fix traffic this time.
Well, this is white and black, and the connector coming off the harness is green and green, so I guess it really does go in whichever way you want it. I'm just gonna run it. And then I realized that this is way longer than it has to be, so I'm gonna just zip tie it up in a bunch somewhere in here and probably just push it out of the way, and it'll be fine. The brake line and fuel line all are supposed to go up in these little clips here, and I got the new clips from Clark's. They're really easy to install. You just stick them up there and squeeze needles pliers on the little clip thing, and it kind of opens up on top. So I think they're kind of one-time use, but they work pretty well for what they are. Well, I got my drums installed on the rear, so that's all good. I went through and tightened all my fittings. I got them real torqued down, so hopefully they're going to be all sealing well. Now it's time to work on my little brass fittings here. Now we have two T's in the car. There's one T at the front that looks like this. There's another T on the back, so brass can get marred up a little bit on the original installation of the brake lines. When you go to replace the brake lines, apparently there's an increased risk of them not sealing correctly. Now I don't have time for that. So I'm taking the time preemptively, before I have any brake fluid in it, to replace both of the brass T's and make sure that everything is up to snuff here. It's single circuit brakes. If I lose any hydraulic pressure, I lose all my brakes. So we're making sure we get the emergency brake installed, and I'm making sure that I get my regular service brakes in as good a condition as possible. Here's the old one, and here is the new one. Even if I could get a nice shot of me upside down in the fetal position under the dashboard, I don't think you'd want to see it. And you definitely don't want to see me hand threading these tube nuts on 1/6 of a turn at a time. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to turn the radio on and we'll get it done. I ended up putting in everything but the front wheel side brakes last night. It ended up being like 1:30, so it's pretty late. I just went to bed. Got up here, Dad's working on some stuff. What's going on today?
I was trying to get some wire and a radio cable through a grommet, but it didn't work, so we're going to get a different grommet.
Why are you doing it right now? Radio's not totally necessary.
It's not, but once the heater goes in, routing will not be accessible.
So we're trying to find places that'll accept a radio antenna here. This is for the ham radio.
And a power cord.
And a power cord for the radio. So we're thinking that we're going to take this 3-hole grommet in the front, and apparently there's an option to get a 4-hole grommet. I'm going to continue on with the front brakes, and we will try to get that all sealed up right now.
Hey.
Maybe I'll just pump the pedal a little bit and see if we can get some air out.
I want some grape drink, baby. It's purple.
Ready?
Yep. Yep.
Let me know if it's at the top too.
I gotta put more in.
Yeah, so it's ready to change if you didn't see that. Nothing. Yep. I went down to 0 on the master a couple times. That went dry. Just gonna have to go do it again. Hopefully get a pedal tonight and have to move on to something else afterward. I think we kind of have brakes, probably enough to go down the driveway and back when the car runs. So we're gonna do it like that, and if we need to go back and revisit that bleeding, we always can. But that bleeder is so close to the steering arm that it actually makes it impossible to put a little bleeder cap on it to protect the bleeder. So I don't know, metallic brake option, I guess.
Got the shifter connected up to the Transmission. Got here, got this boot on.
So when I was in fourth, it would actually touch the passenger seat. When I was in second, it almost touched my seat. So I said I want to keep that about an inch up, so I can maybe grab it with a glove on or something and be able to still shift and not hit stuff. So that means that if I want it to be up a little bit, the shifter shaft needs to be rearward in the same gear. So we have to just adjust where the shaft is in relation to the transmission, and that's where that little slip joint comes in. So hopefully that helps you guys out a little bit if you're doing this. That's pretty good. So we go second, third, make this wheels pretty tight with the drum, but there are no adjustments. Why are there no adjusting holes? That's so stupid. I am going to try to install the rear springs. When we took them apart, it was kind of sketchy. We used a tractor to compress them. I'm going to try to use the weight of the car to compress the springs this time, but I have to get the wheels on first so I can set it down. So we're going to put the wheels on, and I'm going to lift the car up, get it off the jack stands, and figure something out, I guess. Of course, these guys are at super weird angles because we're at full droop with swing axles. Last night I tried to put the spring in on the passenger side and I failed completely. It was very difficult, so let me show you the process that you're supposed to use from the manual. It might not be what you expect. First, you want to take the wheel off. You want to have your U-joint at a 45-degree angle. Then we want to loosen our control arm pivot mounting bolts back here. And we want to drop down the brake hose bracket up here. There's a little spring seat in here. So you want to make sure that the end of your spring goes into that seat. Yes, it is seating correctly. Now, one of the asterisks to these cheap aftermarket KYBs is that the fork ends here don't properly fit my bolt spacing. My longer term plan is to buy the nice conies from Clark's, but for now I need to get a car on the road, so I wanted something that was not worn out but also really cheap. You can see that my bolts that hold the control arm onto the pivot are still loose back there, and I'm going to raise the whole thing up the way it is there, and I'm going to aim the shock as I go. Oh fuck. Keep an eye on it every few pumps and make sure that it's straight. Alright, we're in the hole. Jack looks pretty good. I'm going to hold this where it is and reposition. Sounds like the spring is seating in there. One more thing, I want to get in there and tighten up the control arm bolts on the bottom. A couple of these bolts you can't access while the subframe is installed, from what I can see. So hopefully those don't come loose for you. I think they probably should have put a carriage bolt or something, some kind of retainer in from the factory, but they did not. So we just get to enjoy it. I'm doing this so I can see the bolt as I turn it and make sure the bolt isn't spinning underneath it. Funny thing about doing the factory service procedures is it usually works out pretty well. Lovely. These are
I think you can get it under the shock header.
I see what you mean. Everything is perfect.
The e-brake cable has been hooked up through the tunnel. We got a little grommet there, and then we got our little bar here. This is kind of an equalizer. It serves the purpose of an equalizer bar. We have a spring that goes to the front trans mount as well. So that cable comes over here. We have a boot on this little fitting, and the fitting has to go in this bracket underneath the control arm pivot. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Here we go. All right, we got the battery plugged in. Contact. Nice. Left, right. Oh, this one's a little bit dimmer. Do the right again. It's splitting the power between the right and left, so it's basically doing hazards for the right turn signal.
How about lights?
Headlights. All right. Yep, high beams. High beams. Headlights are off. Headlights are off. Turn the switch off and then on again. Nothing. Nothing. Oh, something happened. There you go. Low beams. Yeah, something's wrong with the dimmer. We got low beams, so that will be legal for the road. We just gotta figure out the high beams. Yeah, we got a full light on the left, but the right side is almost nothing. There's something wrong with the right light.
It must be short in the light itself.
Alright. Well, reverse lights don't work, but we can work on that later too. The most important thing is to have headlights, taillights, brake lights, turn signals.
I wonder if we have a bad high beam switch.
Looks like it. The clutch is next. I have this pivot shaft that I got powder coated many moons ago. So we have a yoke that goes on from the cable. The holes are where your rod goes in. And then we have these two little ball guys that go in the ends. And I was having a really hard time trying to figure out exactly how everything went together, because this is literally like half an inch drawing in the Clark's catalog. Service manual doesn't even show it, really. I think they don't assume that you're ever going to take it out, so that's all you get in the manual. And then in the assembly manual is the best photo, and it's kind of ambiguous what these pieces are. So you look up this one, 24, and it says SPL washer. Turns out that's a special washer, not a split washer, and it's a felt washer. He's okay. So this one goes on passenger side. This one has the big pin, the ball on the end, has a rubber washer, and then it has the felt washer. So that is all together the way it is, and I do my best here. So this attaches to the front transmission mount. So that, as far as I can tell, has no bushing in there. It just kind of sits in there with its rubber. The Clark's catalog says you're supposed to have 2 nylon seats. So that's a nylon seat. So we're going to put that on there. We're going to put another seat on there so it kind of bookends the ball. We got a spring, and the spring retains itself in a little groove inside. So we're going to put the spring on. We got a felt washer. We end up with a stack up that looks like this. And so I'm going to go put this guy in. I'm going to clean this up, put this guy in, and then we'll go lube this all up and put it together. Dad is over here working on the rear engine seal that goes along the entire back of the engine. It's the last seal that I didn't install. And we had an issue where I installed this shroud wrong. It looks like you were able to get it down, but the tab was on the wrong side of the other one. We got some aluminum bars to use for the seal instead of using the original steel, because I figured don't have to paint them and we can just send it like it is. We are currently doing the choke rods. The driver's side there goes up through the hole right behind the carb. On the other side, it comes up in front of the carb. Thread a ridiculously tiny little screw into a nut that's inaccessible. So it's pretty much really easy. I'm started. He's down there working on that, putting those little thermostat choke things in. Oh, down here we also got the head temp sensor plugged in, and we are going to try to install the exhaust downpipe or Y pipe or whatever you want to call it. That goes this way for a non-turbo car. And Clark's has a little TSB on it about maybe having to adjust the log manifolds when we put it in, so I want to make sure that we if we have to loosen the manifolds, that we will do it while we already have the lower shrouds hanging down. And this is what the little choke guy looks like, the automatic choke, and that kind of pins up right here. It's supposed to put these little pins in it, but mine has one broken off right here. I don't know who could have done that.
Me?
I think we're gonna just leave that be. Probably put some JB weld on the top. I scuffed it up with sandpaper. We can maybe JB weld this onto the head, and hopefully it'll stay in place well enough with just the screw in here instead of the screw and the pin. Could have bought a Falcon. Everything would be easy. If I wanted to spend twice as much money for half the car, I could have gotten a Falcon. I think that'll work.
Up, he's seated right. Let me check.
Alright, well I got mine on too. These things look pretty even. This one was a little harder to put in, but I just tried to make sure it was even going down. We got our JB weld curing on the automatic choke deal. Once that's done, we'll pull the bolt out. Hopefully that'll stay up there and we can put our lower shroud back on. That's what our wheel well looks like currently. Got that brace in. The brace was powder coated, and then we got the new light in there. Well, this is a lot of work that I'll have to go and do all this rust removal and paint and body stuff under here later, but I didn't get to it yet. I think I can officially call the accelerator linkage done. So that comes down. This is the rod from the pedal. It twists here. This goes down here. We got a grommet, pivots, and then this rod here goes up to the carburetor. I didn't buy enough grommets from Clark's, so I had to make one from hardware store crap. So it's gonna be okay. It's gonna work. That rod comes out here. We got our reproduction grommet here. What do you call that? Bellows. So that comes up. It hooks onto the bottom of the cross shaft, and that runs the carburetors. In good shape there. Dad's putting the lower shrouds back on. I guess that's hooked up now. So that's all the way closed choke. Looking good. So we now have service brakes, e-brake, accelerator, the clutch. We have one little part that I decided to paint before I installed it. And then we'll get that in tomorrow. And these parts are just sitting here all in disarray. So just leave them where they are. I'm not going to try to touch them. I made a little list of everything. We're going to check it twice. We got the choke done. Throttle is hooked up. We're going to say exhaust is installed because we got it as far as we can for now. Clutch linkage tomorrow. Test lights. Got to figure out why both of the turn signals light up 50% brightness when we turn the right one on. And we need to get a new dimmer switch. Have not tested the horn yet. Battery tie down, I think I have one coming. Seat belts we can put in whenever we wash them, and wipers might not happen, but everything else here needs to be done. So we're going to come back tomorrow, hit that clutch linkage, and we'll try to maybe set up the fuel pump. Where's the fuel pump? All right. Once these things get done, we can start the engine.